Welcome to the Mississippi Museum of Art After Hours Fall Edition. We're so excited to have you here. My name is Monique Davis. I am the Director for the Center for Art and Public Exchange and the Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer for the museum, and we are so grateful you made time in your busy day and this busy homecoming weekend for Jackson State Millsaps and Belhaven and all the parties and everything going on to come out and spend some time with us. Today we are honored to host a panel conversation around Macomb and some civil rights veterans and board members of the Pike School of the Arts. Unfortunately, the artist in residence who was supposed to be here, Charles Williams, had an unavoidable issue and will not be joining us today. But we send him love and care and our well wishes and hope that we can visit with him again soon. So I am going to introduce Calvin Phelps, who is the Executive Director for the Pike School of the Arts, and he will introduce our illustrious panel. So Calvin Phelps is founder and director of Pike School of Art, Mississippi, a space in the Deep South for creative experimentation. The mission of Pike School of Art, Mississippi is to enrich and empower a thriving community built by artists and allies in Southwest Mississippi. PSAMS values collaboration, understanding, respect, inclusivity, equity, and unconventional spaces. As Southwest Mississippi's only contemporary arts center, PSA Mississippi offers free community programming and exhibitions, artist residencies, workshops and talks, and space for art making and discursive research. Oh, discursive is an ACT word, Calvin. To date, PSA Mississippi has received generous support from the Mellon Foundation, the Warhol Foundation for the Arts, Ruth Foundation for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Arts, South Arts, Mississippi Arts Commission, and the Mississippi Humanities Council. I'm going to abbreviate your kind of thing. Okay. And so we're going to welcome Calvin, and he's going to introduce our illustrious panel, so please give him a round of applause.
Thank you, Monique. So when I found out that Charles wasn't able to join us this evening, we were incredibly sad and disappointed, and we sent all of our wishes to him. But we do still have two of the most amazing people in the world here tonight. Brenda Travis, civil rights pioneer, and Dr. Phlanze Brown-Wright, civil rights historian. I was going to take over the panel discussion when I spoke to Monique about continuing talk tonight, but instead, one of our board members is with us tonight, and her name is Jacqueline Bryant, and she is the nephew of Cece Bryant, who was one of the important, niece.
I didn't have a sex change.
She's the niece of Cece Bryant, who was an integral part of the civil rights movement in Macomb. So no further ado, I will just turn it over to the three of them to begin talking about Macomb and the civil rights movement, and also what the civil rights movement in Macomb meant to the state of Mississippi. Jacqueline, thank you.
Well, this is rather impromptu. I wasn't prepared. There's nothing that's been rehearsed. So I just want you guys to bear with us. Brenda Wright Travis has been an icon in my life, all my life. That's all I've ever heard is Brenda Travis. There's a street named after her in our hometown. And Ms. Phlanze, I'm just so in awe of everything that each one of these these ladies have done for not just civil rights, but human rights. Because this is what it's all about. It's a human right issue. And part of civil rights is our community. And the one thing that we need to be cognizant of is how all of those things intertwine. The economy, the civil rights movement, all of those things are interchangeable. So we have talked a little today, and some of the things they talked about were just bone chilling for me. But Brenda Travis from my hometown of Mississippi, Macomb, Mississippi, she knew my uncle and they were very close, and so did Miss Flonzy. So I'm just gonna let them talk. We're gonna talk the video first? Okay, video. See, impromptu.
This is Hidden History on WJTV 12.
Thanks for staying with us as we explore the South hidden history. Mississippi is the birthplace of blues, rock and roll, Faulkner, and comeback songs. But perhaps one of our most significant contributions is the activist who pioneered the civil rights movement.
One particular and influential voice of the era credits Mississippi and the South for an upbringing that gave her the strength to lead even as others were failed by violence. WJTV's Atay Holmes shares her story tonight.
I didn't choose the movement chose me.
Leader, pioneer, civil rights activist Flonzy Brownwright. Born and raised in Madison County, she credits her success to her Southern upbringing.
I come from the stock where people believed in hard work, work ethics, work values.
After spending some time in California, Wright, formerly Flonzy Brown Goodloe, moved back to Mississippi in 1962 with her 3 kids. For about a year, Flonzy spent time in Biloxi. That's when her work started.
I found myself one evening at a church in Biloxi at a freedom meeting. I was in Biloxi when Medgar Evers was assassinated, and that was really my defining moment.
Flonzy came back to Canton in '63. During that time, the city had a high potential of black voters. She was offered a position as branch director of the NAACP office in Madison County. The main agenda, getting blacks registered to vote.
Going door to door and leading marches to the courthouse and teaching people about this 21-item questionnaire and all the things that came with that time period.
But it wasn't easy. Many times, she was a one-man band.
On any given day, when I would come to work, there could be 2 or 3 truckloads of Klansmen sitting out in front of the door of the NAACP office. Many times I would come to work, and the Klan would have put under my door a card, which is in my book, that said the eyes of the Klan are upon you.
There's one event in particular Flonzy will never forget during her tenure as branch director. James Emeritus' 1966 March Against Fear.
As he walked down Highway 51 through the Delta areas to try and encourage people to go out and register and vote, that was the primary focus. The second focus was to demonstrate to the world that a black man could in fact walk down a Mississippi highway without any harm befalling him.
But on the second day, Meredith was shot in the arm. Word quickly got out, and marchers decided to finish his walk. But they needed Flonzy's help.
About 2 days before they reached Canton, my telephone rang. And of course, I answered in my usually energetic voice, and the call on the other end said, "Is this Flonzy Goodloe?" And I said, "Yes, it is." He said, "Well, this is Martin King." I said, "Well, good morning, Dr. King. How can I help you?" He said, "Well, as you know, we're on our way to Canton, and we'll be there in 2 days. And someone has told me that if I wanted to get something done in Canton, I need to call you."
After rallying up the community, Flonzy was able to coordinate food and lodging for 3,000 marchers. Flonzy introduced Dr. King on the steps of the Madison County Courthouse.
I had the opportunity to take Dr. King around Canton. Then he said to me, he said, "You know, I want some soul food," because I guess he hadn't eaten enough bologna sandwiches. He said, "I want some soul food." I said, "Let me call my mother." Dr. King and his members there ate at my mom and dad's table. And we talked about that for years. And the dishes that Dr. King ate out of, I'm going to donate them to the Mississippi Civil Rights Museum.
Later that evening, organizers held a strategy meeting about the next march. That day, Flonzy made a promise to Dr. King.
He said, "My days are numbered. I'm not going to be with you very long. But what I want the 12 of you to do is to make me a vow that when I'm gone, not if I'm gone, but when I'm gone, that when you see racism, when you see injustice, when you see discrimination, that you will call it out. In that meeting with Dr. King, my purpose was clearly defined.
After King's visit, Flonzie decided to run for election commissioner in 1968.
We had by that time registered enough black people in Madison County to elect anybody.
But the rules were changed right before the election.
Prior to my election, only the person from Beat 1 had to campaign in Beat 1. But then when it came in the news that a black woman is now qualified to run for an election commission's position in Madison County, they changed the rules and required that I run in all 5 beats of them. And then I beat them all.
The next day, Flonzie made headlines in the paper. Goodloe defeats Riddell, becoming the first black woman to hold an elected position in Mississippi. Flonzie says she faced every challenge head-on, but threatening messages involving her children is frightening.
I had to protect them, because they didn't choose what I was doing. When my kids would leave school every day, after that call, I would let them get a little head start, walking with their friends, and I would drive on another street to follow them home, to be sure that they got home safe. They never knew that until 10 years ago.
After serving one term as election commissioner, Flonzie accepted a job as an investigator with the EEOC. She retired after 18 years. She now travels around the country, speaking to students and different groups about her experience and the importance of voting.
If you don't want to vote for you, vote for your grandmother who could vote. Vote for your grandfather who didn't have the right to vote. He had no choice in who was elected. So if you don't want to vote for you, because so many people have bled and died for you to have this opportunity, then you vote for the people who didn't have the opportunity.
Flonzie also documents her story in her book, Looking Back to Move Ahead.
At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I just want one question really raised on my tombstone, on my headstone. Have I done enough?
But for now, Flonzie says there's still work that needs to be done. Nate Holmes, WJTV 12.
Many civil rights pioneers didn't let the possibility of jail or death stop them from fighting.
When we return, we're sharing the story of the most arrested civil rights family in the U.S.
African Americans gained a voice at the ballot box with the 1965 Voting Rights Act. By 1968, 60% of African Americans in Mississippi were registered to vote. We're celebrating Black History Month at the two Mississippi museums.
And God, that you encourage those who have you placed in the place of leadership, and they are moving forward and they are fighting for it. We pray that you keep them in every area, in every entity. We pray encouragement for the moving forward of our
Watch
lives.
this to see the odd bedtime remedy that fixes blood sugar and burns fat. Most people take blood sugar medications because
that day, I'm watching and I'm talking to Julian on the phone, telling Julian what's happening. They just hit ball upside the head.
That was Reggie Robinson. Yeah, he's talking about Bob Moses.
Why would you hate me because I came out maybe a shade darker than you? And my hair may be a little bit more curlier, not straight like. Why would you hate me because of that? We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
We wanted to mess the system up. Y'all follow what I'm saying?
That was Ike Lewis. Robert Bobby Talbert, and myself, we volunteered to test the interstate commerce law. So we went to the Greyhound bus station. We walked into sneers and jeers.
He said, we serve colored people on the other side. So I say, I ain't going over there. Brother said, I ain't either. And I said, I sure ain't going.
They took me to the Macomb City Jail.
They had people standing up all out here, you know, the children. I ain't talking about I'm not talking about grown people. I'm talking about school children.
And then later that evening, we were transferred to the Pike County Jail.
She was released and she was not allowed back in school. So the kids said, if Brenda ain't allowed back in school, then we're gonna walk.
I left out and we were going, to leave the campus. And all of these students, it was about 119, over half of the school, walked out with me.
The whole area that we had to go through was black. When we come through that tunnel, them people would sit there and wait, and they would just, hey, and the people would stand on the side of the street. Go ahead, y'all, go, march, march. It was beautiful.
He was singing. The louder he got, we could hear him getting closer. And we joined right on in with him. And
it was like a wall engulfing me. It was emotional because at that point, I knew I wasn't alone.
And we walked all the way down to the main street, then come all the way down to the front of the city hall. Ain't no harm to keep your mind steady on freedom. You heard it? I'm walking and talking with my mind steady on freedom. Yeah.
several folk got arrested that day. I'm watching and I'm talking to Julian on the phone, telling Julian what's happening. They just hit Bob upside the head, and Zerna's on the bottom. Chuck McDougal just jumped on top of Bob. Bob Moses just jumped on top of Chuck to cover Chuck. They whooping the shit out of them, boss. I'm telling you, and then everybody's getting in there. The police is coming from everywhere, whooping ass, every kind of upside down.
To go there, knowing what you were walking into, right? Knowing that this place may be the single most dangerous place to be an activist in this entire country. The most violent, the home, the organizational home of the most doggedly dedicated white supremacists in the country.
I was scared to death. I was scared every time when I walked into Mississippi. I didn't think I was gonna come out.
This is a moment, not necessarily a moment that awakened a national consciousness to what was going on there, but in the state, and for black people in the state to say, if these people can organize in Macomb, if they've got the courage to do that, then perhaps we've got the courage to be able to stand up and do something in our own communities.
We made, a few strides, but we've lost a few too. And my advice would be to the young people today, continue in the vein that we started. Until the killing of black men, black mother sons, as important as the killing of white men, white mother sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. And that's my message.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos from USA.
Awesome.
Stay up to date.
So you see the kind of courage it took to work in the civil rights movement. in the 1950s and 60s. And what you're looking at right now is courage. Brenda, Travis, Flonzie Wright Brown, courage.
We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mother's son, as important as the killing of white men, white mother's sons. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.
And it's been true for 400 years. Nothing has changed. The complexions have changed, but the temperance is the same. And I know both of these ladies have a lot to say, because even as I was born in 1961, I think on the same day that Miss Flonzie was elected to office, November 7th, 1961. 68? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't have my glasses on.
That's okay.
But what did it feel like? Ms. Flonzie?
Well, thank you so very much. And of course, thank all of you for coming this evening to sharing our stories. What did it feel like? Well, there was a multitude of emotions back in the day. And my journey began actually on June 12th, 1963, when Medgar Evers was assassinated. Our parents made a concerted effort to shield us from the ugliness of racism. No matter where you are in your journey of this thing called life, I would dare to say, at some point in your life, you're going to face a time when you wonder if you're on the right path. That could be family, career, job, community. You're going to have a defining moment that says to you, what must I do with my life? When I taught at Miami University in Ohio, I coined a phrase, and it simply says, if your space is no better when you leave it than when you found it, Amen.
You need to redefine your journey.
Amen.
Because we all have an assignment, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But it felt like there was danger all around us all the time. There was hatred around us all the time. There was all kind of intimidation. And anytime one segment of a population tries to keep another segment down simply because they pay a skin tax, it's wrong. You can call it good, bad, indifferent, the ugly, and all. But anytime someone feels as though they are superior to somebody else and they have the power to keep them down, it's wrong.
Yes.
So that's why those of us, many women, many women, many unsung sheroes, including my sister Brenda, we had to try and make things right as best as we could. So I'm honored to share the platform with her. I'm glad you are here, and we will talk about some other things, but how did it feel? I was afraid many times, but yet I knew, as I opened up and said, I didn't choose the movement. Hey, I wasn't going to jail. I wasn't going to get beat up. I wasn't going to get shot at. Well, I haven't been beat up, but I've been shot at, been to jail.
been tear gassed, had my life threatened, the lives of my children threatened, had work taken from my father because I was involved in the movement. But you know, once that thing gets deep down in your soul, woo, once it gets deep, whatever it is,
Yes.
once it gets deep down in your soul, and I know this is bad English, there ain't no turning back.
There ain't no shaking it, folks. There ain't no shaking. That's why Flunzy and I have been on this journey for many years. Flunzy became involved in what year?
63.
63. I became involved, and I'm sorry, you didn't ask me anything.
Oh, we can't help it.
We can't, the girl can't help it. The girls cannot help it.
It's in our soul.
That's right.
This is your platform.
I became involved in 1961 at the age of 16. A young woman. But my soul became involved at the age of 10 at Emmett Till's death. Emmett Till was killed in 1955. I was 10 years old. Our parents didn't allow, or they were trying to hide the Jet magazine and the tragic story of Emmett Till. But we were able to see that Jet magazine. His battered and beaten and torn, just his body, he didn't look human. And I know you witnessed this as well, my sister. It didn't look anything human that ever lived and breathed on this earth. It looked like a monster. A few days later, after seeing the article in the Jet magazine, the police entered our home and took my oldest brother away. And the only thing I could think of was I was never going to see him again. And when and if I did, it was going to be like Emmett Till. They couldn't give a cause for why they violated our family. Well, we didn't have any rights, so they didn't consider it a violation. But they took him away, and he was so traumatized, he wasn't able to talk about it until later years, and then even later years, we didn't get the full story of what they said, the reason they released him. But as a young girl, at 10 years old, seeing what happened to my brother, I vowed that day that when I get older, and you know how we make promises that we don't know what we are saying or what we're going to do, but I said, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do something. And then in 1961, Bob Moses came to Macomb. Actually, the 61 movement actually started in Macomb, Mississippi. Give Macomb its kudos. It actually started in Macomb, Mississippi, and then spread abroad. We are here living testimony of the stories and the tragic things, the bombings and the beatings and the jailings that went on in Macomb, Mississippi. I recall seeing Bob Moses, who was beaten so badly, and he was wrapped, as I call it, in swaddling clothes. His head was wrapped. And I related to that as the throne, the swaddling of Jesus. The only thing he didn't wear was a throne crown. That's the God Moses that some of you've heard about, but you don't really know. You don't know him. He was the soft-spoken person, the soft-spoken man that mentored many of the movement people of today. I always say that Bob Moses should have been elected for the Nobel Peace Prize. I see someone wave their hand. And I, today, am willing and hope that some of you will join me in trying to make sure that he received that Nobel Peace Prize posthumously. Today, I came back to Macomb, not to stay, but I came back to Macomb because at the age of 17, I was exiled from this mighty state of Mississippi. I'd been arrested, and because of my civil rights activities, I was expelled from my high school. And being expelled from my high school, after the sit-in at the Greyhound bus station, and being expelled from my high school, I was arrested a second time, which they were saying it was a violation of the condition in which I was released from prison to begin with. Who cares? But after that time, I was arrested a second time in just, a few days. I was sent to Oakley Training School for an undetermined time at that time, and I found out from our attorney, Jack Young, that was until I reached the age of adulthood, which was 21 years old. I was 16 at the time. So I settled in for a long night's rest. And finally, in April of '62, if you can believe this one, a person came from Talladega College, someone I knew nothing about. I knew that Jack Young, who was the civil rights attorney for the movement, had told us that, he told me that they were trying all they could to obtain my release. They had all kinds of writs of habeas corpuses and everything, trying to obtain my release. Along come this man from Talladega College who claimed that he told the governor, Ross Barnett at the time, that he liberated the Jews, and Ross Barnett released me into his custody. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? I'll never believe it. Ross Barnett, and I said that they had to be complicit in this because Ross Barnett released me into this man's custody, and a few months later, this man tried to molest me. Sister, I knocked hell out of him and I flew. I ran away to Georgia. Jim Foreman was the chairperson of SNCC at the time. I had met one of the professors at Talladega College. His son and I were to be high school students together. They were the only people I knew in Talladega. So I ran to him begging for help and asked him if he would please help me escape this person. He said, "What can I do?" So I gave him Jim Foreman's name in Atlanta. He called Jim Foreman, who was the chairperson again of SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. This is for young people who don't maybe not know what SNCC is. He called Jim Foreman. Jim Foreman told him to put me on a bus, send me to Atlanta, and then call him back to tell him how much the ticket was and what time the bus was to arrive in Atlanta, which this person did. About 3 hours after Jim and his wife Mildred Foreman at the time picked me up from the Greyhound bus station, there became this, except for it wasn't that gentle, upon his door. He said, "That's Mr. Einsman." I said, "It can't be. He doesn't know where I am." Sure enough, when he opened the door, there stood this person who was supposed to be my liberator at the door with 2 Atlanta policemen directing them to arrest this girl. She's a fugitive from justice. Now, what does that tell you? She's a fugitive from justice, but yet you were supposed to be my liberator. They argued back and forth. One of the Atlanta police asked me to step aside. I had my hands up for them to put the special bracelets on me because I knew I was coming back to Mississippi to the Reformatory School. So when he asked me, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 17. He told the rest, hold it, stop. She is an adult, because in Georgia, at the age of 17, you're considered an adult." And ever since then, I've been singing, "Georgia, Georgia," my whole life through. And that's why I'm free today. And I guess I'm free. I don't know. But what this did was it damaged me mentally, because all my life I felt like I've had to be looking over my shoulders. It's not a comfortable place to be. And Mississippi has never pardoned me. But I still sing. At 77 years old, I ain't afraid of your jail, 'cause I want my freedom, I want my freedom, I want my freedom. Ain't afraid of your jail, 'cause I want my freedom, I want my freedom now. And I'm going to cut it off because I want Sister Florence to talk.
Well, certainly, there are a lot of Brenda Travises and Flonzie Wrights.
Yes.
There are a lot of us still out there. I just want to concentrate just for a bit. What is our time?
You just talk until you get tired.
Oh, well, no, okay. I want to concentrate. The history is so clear. And I'm going to encourage each one of you to find somebody's name and Google them so that you can learn more about this thing we call freedom. I want to share some things with you. One thing I want to share with you that in November of 1963, blacks all over the state of Mississippi organized a mock election. Now, why did we do that? Because the power structure had said that colored folk, we weren't black then, we were colored folks. Well, just before colored, we were Indians. Anyway,
well, we've gone through many metamorphoses, so hey.
So they don't want to vote. They're satisfied because they were giving us those $7.50 jobs a week. My dad made $18 a week for 5.5 days of work. And so we had to dispel the myth that we were not satisfied. So on November the 5th, November 3rd or the 5th, in 1963, we organized statewide a mock election in every county of the state of Mississippi. Because we had not gotten the right to vote then. Keep in mind, we had not gotten the right to vote in 63. We only got the right to vote in 65. The Civil Rights Act in 64, the Voting Rights Act in 65.
Yes.
And so, as a result of that, more than 80,000 black people showed up at those makeshift polls to dispel the myth that we wanted the right to vote. Now, women had got the right to vote in 1920, white women. And then, of course, that was the 14th Amendment later on. But we, as a people, did not get the right to vote until 1965.
Yes.
I wanted to touch on that. I also want to touch on when I said that I became involved in 63. Now, at 40, I'm 80 years old. I'm sorry, I got you, girl. I got you. You're a baby, but you're still a baby.
That's not baby, little baby.
The same year that Emmett Till was killed, I had two first cousins, one 15, one 17, walking down a country road in Leake County, Thomasville, Mississippi, on their way to the store. One was from Chicago, visiting his grandmother. And they were going to the store. Truckload of drunk white men pulled up. Hey, where you boys going? Oh, we just walking up the road to the store. Well, hop on the truck. We'll take you. We'll take you. Not knowing any better, they hopped on the truck. And those men took my cousins out in the woods, beat them, chained them to their truck, and drugged them until their bodies were decapitated. So, but I didn't know how to relate that to racism, because as I said, our parents had never talked about racial kinds of issues in our home. We attended a Catholic school, so all my nuns were white, and believe it or not, I got white relatives in Canton, and we know each other. So that's how that thing goes. So, because we are related. We are related. Just keep looking. So that situation happened to my family. But again, I was too young to equate that with racism. But then as time went on, and when I tell people, and when I lecture across the country, people say, how is it that you're from Mississippi and you didn't know anything about racism? Well, like I said, the only thing I remember was walking to school, to a public school when I went to public school, and seeing the white kids on a bus, but I didn't know that was racism at that time. But let me tell you, when I got it, when I finally got it, I got it.
Yes.
And then I understood that systemically, we were not supposed to ever have to achieve anything in life. And so when we say she's the first, he's the first, she's the first, he's the first, we were never supposed to be the first of anything.
Yes.
Never, because it was just not designed that way. Now, we've made a lot of gains. Oh yes, we've had a black president, we got a vice president. Wonderful. I've met them both. That's wonderful. But let me tell you, I want each one of you to do some soul searching. And I can't see you out there, so I can't pick. I'm not picking on you because I can't see you. Okay, I see some bodies at the table. I want each of you to find a moment in time when you can say, I want to make things better.
Absolutely.
And that's the only way that things are going to get better, is that you make a commitment that you, it doesn't, we're not going to have another Dr. King. We not in our lifetime.
No.
Now maybe in your grandchildren's lifetime, but he needs to come soon. He needs to come sooner than that. But anyway, another story for a different day. Teach your children to have self-respect, to understand the difference between right and wrong, and be willing to stand up for that no matter what. Now you take, in 1968, I was 5 years old, running for office. And the man that I defeated had been in office, they tell me, for some 40 years. I was a mother, a divorced mother, 3 children, working a job, $33 a week, and buying a house, because I saw my dad how he did with $18 a week. And I wanted to provide for them the same opportunities that they had provided for us. Yes. But I want each one of you tonight to, if you see something that you think you can make better, then it's incumbent upon you to do that. I want to show you something. Here's a sign. Can y'all see this sign?
Yeah.
It says no color allowed. This sign was hung in a movie theater in Knoxville, Tennessee in 1925. And what I want to say about this sign in particular, it was my generation who removed all these signs. Give us a hand, y'all. It was my generation who fought and filed lawsuits and went to jail so that these signs, so that you all would not have to face going into the back door to use the bathroom or to get a hamburger.
Yes.
Now, my challenge to you and my assignment to you, because every generation has an assignment. My assignment to you as I close is that you never allow these signs to ever be put up again anywhere in America. That's your charge.
And when I speak to both of these ladies and I say that it takes courage, it took a lot of courage. When she speaks to no colored people allowed, we're all of color. She's not talking just to the black people in this audience. She's speaking to everybody.
That's right.
We can't go backwards. We can only go forward. So that's a challenge to every race.
Yes.
You have to exhibit concern and cooperation within your community to make a difference. And that is the challenge that we all speak to. Reach out to your brother man, your sister man, your fellow man, and let's make a difference. Let's challenge all of our friends, our family to vote. We need a black governor in Mississippi. Heard.
But before you go, at first I was feeling a little bit disappointed and a little bit disheartened because there aren't that many of you out there. But you know what? When I look around, it doesn't take a room full, a house full, anything. You are the spark of life of the movement. You tell somebody, you uplift somebody, you send somebody. All of us.
It only takes one.
That's right. It only takes one. Can you raise your hand and say, I am the one? All right.
Thank you very much for your your time. We certainly do appreciate your presence.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome.
Embrace somebody. Hold a hand. Sing the song. You all know it. Today, we will overcome.
Thank you all for coming. And I'm a moderator. I'd like to just offer, I just want to let you know that I have a few copies of my bestseller book, Looking Back to Move Ahead, Looking Back to Move Ahead with me. On the cover is a photo of me introducing Dr. King. This book has provided $45,000 in scholarships for students around the country. So if you invest with me this evening, I'll autograph it and you can take it with you and you can read the rest of my story. I don't believe in having fundraisers, so what I get from the book, and if people bless me with something, it goes into my 501c3 scholarship foundation. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for this distinguished panel. We are so honored to have you all share your stories and take the lessons of the struggles and the things you've worked for and sharing part of your soul with us tonight. So really, we are deeply grateful. Thank you.
Till the killing of black men. Is that Cynthia? Yes, it is. Come on. Black mothers, sons, as important as the killing of white men. White mothers, sons, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes